There's a chat feature here, and that's where you can ask questions. You can also give reactions and then how to unmute and turn your video on. We are in closed captioning today, so if you don't see the captions at the bottom of your screen, just click on those three dots and there'll be an option for captioning to turn on your device. There, Jody, there's our reminder. All right, we've had some changes in the CTPD state support team consultants around the state, so we're going to go ahead and reintroduce ourselves for you so you can put names and faces together. And I'm going to let Lisa go ahead and start us off.
Good morning, everyone. Lisa Height from SST Region 1. So I have the Toledo area down to Vantage, over to a little bit of Vanguard Sentinel. So happy to have you with us today.
Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Kenny Seawright. I'm the Region 2 CTPD consultant. I have Erie, Huron, and Lorain counties. So welcome to everybody.
All right, I'll jump in. Good morning. I'm Janice Abram. I'm from SST4, and that's serving Lake and Geauga counties. Great to see everybody this morning.
Good morning. My name is Christopher Colina, and I'm from Cuyahoga County, Region 3, and I'm here with my colleague as well, Matt DeGovics, and he's going to introduce himself. And we're both brand new to SST this year, so looking forward to working with all of our districts throughout Cuyahoga County.
Good morning, everyone. Chris and I are using the same computer for volume, so my picture may not highlight, but here in Region 3, as you can see, we're sitting next to one another. But welcome again, Matt DeGovics, and happy to be here. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jody Glazer from 5, and I see somebody put in the chat that the link didn't work, but I just used it and it did. So try it again. I'll double check that. But I'm actually from Region 5, which shoots right down along the Pennsylvania border. So I have Ashtabula, Trumbull, Mahoning, and Columbiana County. Thanks for everyone coming in this morning.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ray Blevins. I'm the Career Tech Planning District Consultant based out of Region 6, home in Wapakoneta, Ohio.
Hey there, everybody. Julie Frankel, SST7, North Central Ohio, 7-county region.
Good morning. I'm Stacia Kazchek, and I am the CTPD consultant for Region 8. So that is Medina, Portage, and Summit counties. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Krista Allison, and I'm in Region 9. And I'm also the CTPD consultant, and that region covers Stark, Wayne, and Holmes County. Happy to see everyone this morning.
And in Region 10, we do have an opening, but we do have a few people on the call today from Region 10. Marcia and Sarah, do you want to say hi?
Morning, and it's just me today, just Marcia. We're in the Dayton area covering our 6 counties, and so good morning to everybody.
Hi, everyone. I'm Erin Curtis with Region 11. We cover Franklin County and the 6 surrounding counties, and I also have Radisha Young-Willingham, who is my co-CTPD consultant.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Lydia Brodegard. I cover Region 12, which is 13 counties in Southeast Ohio. So anywhere from Monroe up to Tusk, over to Jefferson, to Muskingum. And today I am right in the middle in Coshocton County at the Coshocton County Career Center.
And I'm Melissa Salazzo. I'm in Region 13 in the Cincinnati area. I have Butler, Warren, Hamilton, and Claremont counties.
Good morning, everyone. Mike McCoy, CTPD for SST 14 and 15 regions. I cover from Wilmington to Lawrence County. So I have quite a large territory, but welcome everybody. Glad you're here.
Good morning. I'm Melinda Johnston and I'm in Region 16. So I cover all the very far southeast 8 counties between Lydia and Mike.
All right. And then we have two friends from the department joining us this morning.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Amy Samansky with the Office for Exceptional Children, and I'm the Secondary Transition and Workforce Development Consultant.
Good morning. I am Emily Menker in the Office of Career Technical Education. I am the consultant for career-based intervention and job training coordination, and I work as a liaison with the Office for Exceptional Children to support students with disabilities in career tech education.
All right, and thank you both for being here today and supporting all of us. So today's agenda, we have some timely topics for you with everything that's going on in the state. So Amy and Emily are going to give a quick update on things that are happening at the Department of Education and Workforce. And then we're going to have two speakers join us to talk about how they partner with opportunities for Ohioans with disabilities and their county DDS board to provide accommodations and modifications for Career Tech Lab for students that need those assistances to participate fully in their lab setting. Then we're going to have Dr. Downing from Southwestern Career Academy talk about literacy and CTE. And then we'll do a follow-up, a couple reminders and a couple new things to share with you. And then we'll go into our regional breakout sessions. So that'll be near the end of the session. And so Amy and Emily, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. And if you'd like, I can stop sharing. If you have something you want to share, you just want to see everybody a little bigger.
Sure. Thanks, Melissa. And again, good morning, everyone. I just have a few updates to share, and those are funding opportunities that are available right now from the Department of Education and Workforce for serving students with disabilities. I dropped the first link in the chat, and I will share my screen. We have the Job Coach Skills Trainer Grant for students with disabilities that is available. Are you able to see my screen okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure that is available. It is due on November 14th, so that is coming up. You can access the form for the application here. It is a form that you would submit. It will time out, unfortunately, just so you know, if you start typing and have to leave. So make sure that when you do go in to fill out the form that you are ready to complete the entire form at that time. You could do a print PDF to save it and kind of have a hard copy to work from if you would need to. But the application can be accessed here. We will send out another reminder through our special education listserv with that information. It's we have funding available for up to 50 educational agencies, which does include all of our joint vocational school districts, comprehensive and compact career centers. We do not have 50 applications yet, so please continue to apply. We want to enhance the opportunities for our students with more significant needs to be able to work in the community. So if you need assistance in either funding a job coach or training a paraprofessional to become a job coach, these funds would be perfect for you. We're looking again for individuals who are working on the job site. We've had lots of questions about if this could be used towards a career navigator or a career coach. And this is again for someone who is directly supporting a student with a disability out in the work site. If there's a school-based enterprise that you would need a job coach for, we would say you could certainly use a job coach with that, but we would not want the funds to be used to support that school-based enterprise. We would want that to be for some type of opportunity that was out in the community. Another opportunity that we have available is also on our website, and it is the Becoming a Pre-ETS Provider. We have funds available. The application is open until December 5th, and these funds can be used to offset the cost of your team becoming a pre-ETS provider. So all of the videos that need to be watched, any curriculum that you want to utilize to prepare for working with the students, and then any scheduling and just planning that you want to do to kind of get a comprehensive plan together as to how you will administer those pre-ETS. We have funds available to offset that cost. Once you become a pre-ETS provider, then all of that billing would take place with the opportunities for Ohioans with disabilities. The form can also be accessed right from the website. Same idea. It's a form that you would submit. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. We will be posting the video that I had provided last week. I did an hour little introduction to these two opportunities, and we will be posting that on the website. Unfortunately, I don't know exactly where it's going to post, but if you reach out to me, I can send you the link once it's there. And then the last piece that I want to mention is connected with the Ohio Transition Support Partnership, Becoming a Pre-ETS Provider, and those are the pre-ETS materials. So in the past, we did not have materials that had been already developed for schools or providers to use in order to provide the pre-employment transition services for our students. We're very fortunate that the Ohio Employment First Workforce Task Force partnered with OCALI to develop an incredible set of pre-employment transition services modules with just as many types of activities and worksheets and lesson plans that you can ever imagine. These are all free. You do not need to use them to provide pre-ETS as a provider. You can use them in any way, shape, or form that you want. So take what you need, leave what you don't. If you just click here, you can see again just a lot of different opportunities for you to just pull in some resources to support your students in each of those categories. Again, free. They are compared to the opportunities for Ohioans with disabilities benchmarks that are required through the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act for pre-employment transition services, but you don't need to use those unless you're working as a pre-ETS provider. So just want to make sure that you're aware of these resources and these grant opportunities. That is all that I have to share. So I'm going to kick it over to Emily.
Thank you, Amy. And I am also going to share very quickly updates from the Office for Career Technical Education. I only have two quick updates. Over the last few years, the Office of Career Tech has been working on a mapping project, which is helping us to identify where career tech programs and pathways are throughout the state of Ohio. Using that mapping, we've been able to identify areas that we really want to focus some expansion of career technical education opportunities. So based on the mapping, the Office of Career Tech put out a toolkit for Ohio CTE expansion of effective access. So our goal is really to expand existing program. How can we address wait lists? How can we add more pathways and programming? But then also areas where no career tech programs exist, how can we build those from the ground up? One of the other features that we're really focusing on through that is the expansion of career tech exploration in middle school. And so we have hired a new middle school consultant to help support middle school programming. Her name is Jasmine Stevenson. So I'm going to put the links to the career expansion toolkit and Jasmine's contact as well as the middle school page in the chat. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for joining us today. And hopefully as the year goes on, we'll have a little bit more exciting news to share when the new year starts and we start seeing the expansion of CTE ramp up. All right, so our first speaker today is Miss Chrissy Cheslock from 4 County Career Center, and she's going to share with us how her school has been partnering with OOD to provide the best experience for students with disabilities in the Career Tech Lab. So Chrissy, I'm going to go ahead and turn that over to you.
Okay, perfect. We'll see. Okay. It's coming up okay, right?
It is.
Okay, perfect. Good morning. Hey, friends. I'm sure I've seen many of you at different meetings and stuff. So I'm just giving a little background about our experience with OOD and how we've kind of developed a really great partnership for our area. So this is just a little bit about 4 County. We are in very rural Northwest Ohio. We service about 22 schools, between 950 and 1,000 kids right now. And then you can kind of see our percentages of where we run with economically disadvantaged and our students with disabilities. And we have students in all of our 30 CTE programs, which is amazing. So obviously I am the special ed supervisor, and those that are on the team that work with our OOD counselor are like our 5 OCs or case managers. I have 8 intervention specialists, our job training coordinator, and then we have an OOD counselor that we'll kind of talk about on the next slide. So our OOD counselor, we've worked with him and he is in-house in our building 1 day a week, which if you can facilitate that, that is really huge to be able to have a person in your building. This allows him to meet with our students, to attend IEP meetings. He has easy connections with our 4 County staff or labs or anybody else that he kind of needs to make a connection with, that things come up as he's working with our students. And then with that, we've built that relationship. And so the majority of his caseload are our 4 County students that he sees. So they're not various other people that don't necessarily come in our building all the time. He's here, and then his caseload is the majority of our students. And that's probably not as feasible in some of the other areas, depending on the referrals that you're making or how many students that you have involved. So what's kind of needed to make this happen? Obviously, we do a lot of student referrals with OOD. With parent permission, we try to start them as soon as they come in as juniors. OOD will give us a list of students that maybe are at 4 County that are already referred. And so we know to make sure that we can involve our OOD counselor or have them come at the meeting. And then we also then know who we can refer. We've done a really great job with him in communicating about our CTE programs. So he knows what's involved in those, which will go to kind of the later side of how they help support us. And then it's really crucial that they're part of like our students' employment focus. We do want their plan and our plan to kind of align together. So we're working together to get those students the outcomes that they want. And I realize that I have a typo on this, but a lot of people also proofread it, so it's kind of funny. So if you see it, do not judge. We're all just people here. So one of the big successful collaborations that we had was we have our culinary arts management program, and we had a student that was set to come out that has brittle bone disease. And so what that means is she's kind of wheelchair bound and she's very short in stature. And so she's in a motorized wheelchair that goes up and down. She had impacted mobility just with fine motor, a lot of fatigue. She came with a one-on-one aid for support because she couldn't carry heavy things, and just for accessibility, even in her academics. And obviously, most everybody's labs are set up for like those average size students, or those that don't necessarily have the things that were impacted by her. So we knew coming in, we were going to have to make some accommodations to our lab, to our program for her to be successful. Because her ultimate future goal was she wanted to be in the culinary arts field. She wanted to be a chef or a sous chef or something along those lines. So we connected with her OOD counselor and had a lot of transition meetings before the summer that she came out to us. And with that connection, OOD was able to purchase for her a specialized knife cutting kit that focused on her fine motor, that were easier for her to use, smaller, like almost like a kid set that fit her hands better, a specialized cutting board and workstation for her. Our workstations were average size, and we were talking about her having to go up and down. But in those conversations, we wanted to customize it for her of what that would look like. And so they made her her own workstation that she was able to be in her chair comfortably and safely to be able to work. And as for county, obviously, we knew we were going to accommodate in our lab. But as everybody knows, if you are a school and you're purchasing those items, they do not go with them once they graduate. And so this was really key for us, to have these tools to get experience with them and to be able for her to have those when she left, so she could continue to meet her like employment goals of her future needs. So that was one of the major things that we worked, because it was, they did put a lot of funds into that, but it even was the support in connecting her with some individuals that could help support her with learning how to use these things, which was different than what our instructor could provide. And then even training him on what does that look like and how does that work. So they did a really great job helping us facilitate that, hearing what our needs and concerns were, hearing from the student and the family. And this was truly like a cohesive effort of both of us looking at what her future goals were after high school to make this work. Some other ways that they've helped, we have a job training program for some of our higher intensive needs students. And as you all kind of know, a big thing with that is the driver's license and the transportation piece. And we're from really a rural area. I don't have busing. I don't have any of that stuff. I have a guy that started a taxi service with his own van. So we don't have a lot of options for our students to get places. And so there were a few students that we had jobs secured for them, that they were going to be able to do, but we couldn't get them there. The parents and their work schedules and all of that stuff. So in contacting OOD to just say, is there anything that we could work with? One of the things that they were able to do for a couple of them, because it was close to their house, were they were able to purchase a bike. And then that allowed that student to get there for that job, for that training, for all of those things. They've also been able to pay for a driver's ed course. In our area, we have a driver's ed program that supports and specializes in working with individuals with disabilities. But keep in mind, like, that's not a blanket thing that every student gets. That's obviously part of their plan, their future goals, and what you're looking at. And they were just covering the cost of that driver's ed course, and then we would set up a time for them to come into our building to meet with that student. But those were all customizable options. I know the view always was, oh, OOD can help get a driver's ed, get your license, get a car, all of that stuff. But that's the conversation where you need to start earlier with your OOD counselor, and what does that look like? Like, it's not just a blanket, every kid gets everything. It's really supporting what their employment goals and things that they're needing. So in a nutshell, and I know I talk very fast, but I also want to make sure there's enough time for everything. That's kind of our setup with OOD. And it's a really great partnership and a relationship, and they obviously continuously support in other ways with our students. But those are like the major opportunities that they have to make things accessible when you're starting with them earlier. That's all I have.
Chrissy, there were a couple of questions in chat. One of them just asked about cost, and Amy replied that there isn't a cost in working with OOD. And then also your slides, if you could please make those view access. People would like to have access to those.
Yes, of course.
The slides are, a PDF of the slides are in our Padlet too.
Chrissy, there's another one in there in regards to talking about how you collaborate with your county board.
So we also go through that same process where we sit in 4 counties. And so we try to facilitate with a point person from each of our county boards to let us know students that maybe they know are earmarked to come to 4 County, so we also can involve them, and they also sit at that table. For us, it's huge up front to be able to get that information. And then our county boards also will facilitate some services. One of our counties does have a transportation network, and so they will help provide funding with students with that transportation network to get them to like interviews and things like that. But not every one of our counties has that opportunity, and that's where like OOD comes in. So if you haven't like sat down or set up a meeting with your area board of DDs or even your OOD people, like I would recommend to start there and have them come into your building, because we are very unique with some of the things that we maybe need support on to make things accessible, that for them to be able to see it and experience that and to have that conversation of what can they support with, what are the options that we have available, it really makes it a nice experience for our students and our families, that they're coming in and we're all on the same page and they're not having to have 4 different meetings with 4 different agencies that are not on the same page.
In chat, someone else is asking if you could expand on what that driver's ed collaboration looks like.
So with that, like I said, we have one of our driver's ed agencies specialized in working with individuals with disabilities. And so they will set up a time weekly that we work within that student's schedule, or over their lunch, they'll eat lunch together, and they will come in and they will do the driver's ed course with them. And again, that's where OOD is paying for that, but they will customize it per that student. So instead of them maybe being in like, like a summer class that's a month long, like they obviously need a longer period of time to understand what's going on and more of an accessible programming. And so we just provide that opportunity in our building for that driver's ed instructor to come out and meet with our students to provide that driver's ed piece for that student if we're earmarking them like they need that for employment and that's one of their goals going on. So if we have other students that have the means and they're just waiting till they're 18, like that's not something that OOD technically will come in and swoop in. But if we're saying there's a financial need and that student is going to do employment and we want to get them connected for them to be in our job placement program as a senior, then that's really where those conversation and looking at their future goals and the needs are, where then they will set that up. And so that programming is through a certified driver's ed instructing course. And so they develop their own curriculum that meets the standards that's accessible to our students.
Christy, I have a question. You mentioned that you started having lots of transition meetings like before the student even arrived. How did you guys plan that out with the application process? I'm just curious.
So our application process and placement, our students are notified of their placement opportunities in the end of February or March. And so we do go out and amend the IEPs at the end of March and April for students coming out. And in those meetings with those amendments, we're flagging students that we want to make sure we have a transition meeting over the summer. So like our student that was going in that culinary arts, we knew that we had to do some heavy accommodations, and we knew that in April. So to start that ball rolling of setting up those conversations with OOD or things like that are super important. So for us to get out and amend, then that also gives us the opportunity to set things up in the summer to get kids out to 4 County, to experience it, to walk through, to address any of those concerns if they're ones that aren't just going to be able to hop on the bus in August and come here and be great. So I think that's something that has really like worked in our favor of how we set up when we amend to get kids ready to come in, and we're knowing before August what we're needing to have in place or to set up meetings.
Chris, I have another one for you. I know that, our special ed folks can wrap their heads around this, but how did your general ed, staff, how did they, I don't know, how did OOD support them and just easing their anxiety and things like that?
So when we met, like when we knew we were going to have to make some accommodations with that lab, we immediately involved that lab instructor. Like that's their program, that's their baby, that's their classroom. They're also the person in charge of that. I can cook, but I'm not teaching a program. So I think it was hearing the concerns of what's needed, what was his concerns for safety, and to make sure we all are on the same page of what can be addressed and what does that look like. Because we had some great ideas going in, but then where that space was set up and some of those options got nixed because it just wasn't feasible and it wasn't going to make it safe. So I think with them at the table, also with our OOD counselor, and they're saying, we hear you, you know, how about this, if we provide this knife kit, that's this, does this meet your requirements of the lab? Will this be everything that they need in that lab? So it was that conversation of bringing everybody to the table when we knew this was coming. I'm not going to make decisions for accessibility features without involving our career tech instructors. And I think that's a huge thing that needs to happen. Like, they do have a voice in this. It's not to say, no, that kid can't come in my lab, I'm not comfortable, but how can we make this happen? I want to hear how to support you. How can OOD support you? Or how can our board of DD support you? We really try to push, it's that team collaboration effort. And it's been a labor of love, because it is scary when your CTE instructors are coming from the workforce and don't always have that education piece, that they are just seeing like, okay, I'm gonna have this student in a wheelchair in here and she can't lift pans. How is this even gonna work? But he went in owning it, like, how can we make this work? We've kind of flipped that script of asking how that works.
Chrissy, just another one before I dominate. Question is, how well had your partner school prepared that transition? You know, had they like said, hey, did they give you forewarning, or, you know, what type of relationship did you have with that homeschool?
So I'm a nothing but honest, friends. So we, like I said, service 22 schools. Our open communication with some is obviously better than the others. This is one of the schools that has very great communication with us and gave us a heads up and said, hey, this is what she's concerned in. We're going to have her apply. Is this doable? And we're of course like, yes, let's have her apply. If she gets accepted, then we want to meet. We want to see how we can figure this out and what that looks like. So I think it is, again, setting up those meetings of conversations with our associate schools. Just because you have a hard or a challenging kid, or a kid that's going to need a lot of extra support in lab, that's not a no for you to tell us, like, we're not going to accept your student, obviously. But we need to know, because I want that transition to be successful. Like, we want it to be successful for the associate school and for the career center. Like, because if they're not successful here, then they're looking at going back to that associate school and they're missing that great opportunity. So we really try to promote in the meetings that I have with the district reps and our associate schools of, be forthcoming with us so we can work together to make a great transition plan. And this was a perfect instance, and we brought that up before, of, had we not known until she came in August, like, this would have been a whole different ballgame, and it would not have been successful for her, and it would have been super frustrating for everybody on that front. But now she is working like in our area and different area businesses in the culinary arts field. So, I mean, it truly is like a success story and a labor of love of all that.
Hey, Chrissy, I have a question. Have you been able to partner with OOD within your transition plans? Are you using your OOD partners as people who are helping deliver the transition services or activities? And if yes, could you talk about that?
Yes. So with having our counselor in here one day a week, we do invite him to our IEP meetings, and we're having conversations, and he's in those conversations. And we do also include him on a transition plan for certain things. So like that driver's ed piece was an instance, like, we're making that connection, and we're going to provide obviously the opportunity for that. And OOD is going to help facilitate that connection and that enrollment into driver's ed. So that's one example. Also, when we're looking at students just trying to figure out their lives, I mean, we transition plan early and they still don't know, or things change. They've come in clutch for us, because we cover such a wide area, of making connections with some pre-ETS programs and things like that by county, to make those connections with where that's going. So we've included that in our transition plan. And he really does love to attend the IEP meetings. I'm not just making that up, because he wants to make sure things are in alignment. And we are very lucky and blessed that he has spent the time to get to know our programs and what that's about, to know that it is purposeful for him to be in those meetings, to make sure his plan and our plans are aligning, and to to get everything that we can get in under that school umbrella before they switch to the adult services. So they've been really great in working with us and being upfront and meeting with students to help facilitate certain things. And then even with the parent referrals, we sometimes can get parents to answer our calls. And even though we tell them like OOD is going to connect for an intake meeting, they don't answer calls from people they don't know. So it's kind of work that he's in our building, like a collaborative effort to talk to parents or to have parents come in to meet with him personally, because that face-to-face gesture goes a long way. And when you become their safe space and you're referring them to somebody else, for you to be in that meeting as well.
So one thing I heard, Chrissy, and I'm just going to put this out for the administrators on the call as a reflection piece, but how do you as administrators support your staff in developing these things over the summer if needed, so that that transition is very smooth at the beginning of school? Because we know when you find out in April and school ends earlier and earlier, it seems like in May, then you've got half of May, June, July, and August, and then they're here. So how do you help your staff, your career tech instructor, your transition people, your intervention specialists make that transition smooth over the summer? Do you have a supplemental contract? Do you do extended time for them? Those kinds of things to make that easier for them, so it's a success for everybody involved.
Is that for me or for the group?
It was just a reflection question.
Okay, I was like,
yeah, I won't throw you under the bus. So
I will say, I appreciate the time, and I would be remiss if I said, when I say we, the majority of this stuff is I have an amazing staff that's really put in the time with our OOD counselor, and I just am the spokesperson of facilitating. And like you said, it is important to support them with what they need. And one of those things was we need that person in our building. They do all the hard work. They don't always, their faces aren't always in front of it, but I just want to give them a shout out. So if anybody knows my people, if you just let them know that they have a shout out in the rock stars, that would be great.
Great. Thank you so much, Chrissy, for joining us today. Great information and a great reminder to all of us that to flip that script of, instead of how can we not, it's how can we? How can we say yes? And what can we do to make these situations work out in a positive light for everyone involved? So with that, if you have more questions for Chrissy, drop them in the chat, and we'll get them to her and find a way to get that information back out to you. So I have then our next person is, let me put my slides back up, is Joshua Wolf from Laurel Oaks Career Campuses, and he is a welding instructor. And he's just going to share a little bit about how he's collaborated in the past to make some accommodations and modifications for students in his welding lab.
Melissa, thanks for having me. Can everybody see me?
Yep, I'll turn my screen off too, so you're bigger. Or you show up bigger.
That's all I need to be bigger.
I didn't need it to come out like that.
I'm just kidding. TV puts on 10 pounds, right? I'll take it.
There you go. Yeah.
So again, my name is Josh Wolf. I'm a welding instructor here at Laurel Oaks in Wilmington, Ohio, part of the Great Oaks District out of Cincinnati, Ohio. And I'm going to share two experiences that I've had in the past 2 years. One wasn't wasn't necessarily successful. The other, I feel, is very successful and will continue to do so. And I'm going to tell you why I feel that one was not successful and the other one was. So the first story is the unsuccessful story. And this gentleman joined my program his 11th grade year. And this young man had been in a behavioral school since the 3rd grade, and then was, I don't want to say turn loose, but put into my program after being in a very controlled environment for most of his, educational career. And when you come into my environment, it is not a very controlled environment. There's a lot of dangers, a lot of chaos. I guess you would consider it controlled chaos. However, it's a very chaotic environment in the welding and metal fabrication program. And this young man came to me with very little information about him. And, over the weeks, it took me, because I was unfamiliar with this student, it took me several weeks to identify issues that we were having in lab as to why the quality of his, weld work wasn't in par with everybody else's. I started noticing some very small things that started, triggering some thought processes in my mind. And I did not think that this kid could see depth. I didn't think he had any depth perception. And that was a big worry for me, first of all, because he couldn't see the bead, the weld that he was running. Secondly, if that was in true fact, a fact that he didn't have very good depth perception, that really, for safety reasons, as far as putting hands further into a grinding wheel or into something that could possibly, injure his fingers. Uh, I took it upon myself without any training. I didn't know. I went to hand him some papers and I pulled them back from him slowly as he reached for them, and he missed the mark by a mile. And at that point, I looked at him and I said, David, you don't have any depth perception, do you? He goes, no, it's very limited. And I said, buddy, this is going to be a very tough thing to work through. This is something that I'm struggling with having to find support to help you through. I don't know how to help you with depth perception. Let's reach out to some people. And by that time, this was around Christmas. He had a very rough go, and it was tough watching as an instructor. It was tough watching David go around and look at other people's work and criticize himself because he couldn't weld up to that level, that expectation. I had done things like, personally went in and welded with David. In fact, David had recorded me welding. And I do social media as well, so I have plenty of videos on there of me welding. David had recorded me welding on multiple occasions with his cell phone and would go back and watch them and over. So we did everything that we could to individually, work with David to build that, that confidence within him to get him to the point that he needed to be successful. And that was a struggle. And before, we found that answer, David realized that he only had one good eye, and he didn't want to damage his good eye that he did have, and thought it best that he went back to his homeschool. In the exit meeting was the first time that I had ever heard about any of the difficulties David had with vision. As his lab instructor, that was the first time I had heard anything about it. That was on his exit meeting. And I kindly asked the person sitting across from me, where were you 4 months ago? Because this would have been a game changer for me. That story alone, is something that I reflect on constantly and something that I use moving forward to help students in the future. Fast forward to a student that I have currently. This young man came into my program his sophomore year to visit my program. And, visually, you could tell this young man had some restrictions. He was born with a disability that left the left side of his body paralyzed, partially paralyzed. He had very limited use of his left hand, and his left hand was permanently in a shape that a glove or anything else couldn't fit over. So for the, visually looking at this kid, I knew that we had some challenges. When his dad called me, and this was, I think, was the start, this was the game-changing moment I felt. His dad called me before he started his junior year and said, Mr. Wolf, I just want to talk to you. Do you think my son's able to do this? And I told him, I said, I watched your son in here for sophomore visits, and he didn't shy away from anything in my lab. He gravitated towards it. He stepped up to the challenge every single time, even though it was just playing around with the processes. He wasn't afraid of it. And I asked Dad, I said, what are your expectations for my program? And I think that's a really, really important part. What are your expectations for my program? And he said, are you here for an experience or are you here for employment? And he said, Mr. Wolf, I want my son to be employable. And I said, if you're on the same team and your son's on the same team and you guys are all 100% dedicated to this, we'll make your son employable. Well, there was obviously some challenges that even as a professional in this trade, I didn't see when we first started. Again, and I think that's where a big barrier is. Even as 25 years a professional in this industry, owning my own business in this industry, there were things that came about that I had no idea how to deal with, and I didn't see that they were even an issue until they were. So my resources on reaching out to find solutions were extremely, extremely limited. To piggyback off the previous speaker, And she did a great job. Chrissy, you did an awesome job, by the way. I'm nowhere near that. Phenomenal job. But using knives and things are something everybody does. And there's plenty of resources on how to better use a knife with disabilities. With welding, we're a very small percentage of this country anyway. And so our resources narrowed down even further. And so, you know, when it came to welding, how do I keep this young man's hand safe? The first 2 weeks, we were taping a glove, duct taping a glove around his wrist and putting a sling or basically a jacket over top of it to keep it protected. That was the only thing we could come up with. When it came to stick welding, you have to put individual rods into an electrode holder. You have to squeeze that electrode holder, put the rod in, and let it go. How does a person with one hand do that? I never even thought about that. So we ended up having the construction lab build him a block of wood with multiple holes in it. That way he could preload all of his rods into that piece of wood, and as he needed them, use his electrode holder with one hand and take rods out of that. So we were still left with the safety issue. How do we get this kid where he's, you know, safely able to operate in my lab? And I just didn't have any solutions, none at all. So I reached out to my social media community, who happens to be a highly focused community of welding fabrication professionals. And within a day, I was put in connection with the largest leather safety manufacturer in the welding industry in the United States, out of Texas. Outlaw Leather partnered with us and said we would love to take this project on. I took multiple pictures of my students, some measurements of his arm. Within 2 weeks, I had an entire sling that went around his shoulder that held his arm up that he was able to use for stability. And it was all a single leather sleeve that went around in a mitten. And that kid uses that every single day. That young man is now on job placement. He has been for the past month. He welds hydraulic cylinders for an employer here in Wilmington. Is doing a phenomenal job. He passed all of his credentialing. He's passed his certification, his 3G certification for welding. This young man was driven to be successful and has met every challenge that I've thrown at him. And I couldn't be more proud of him. And I couldn't be more proud of my community of my community of professionals. And this isn't like at all, my conversations with ODD moving forward have been very productive, and we're going to have them as a very big. We've doubled our welding lab since this has all happened. So we got 25 additional incoming juniors every year, so 50 incoming juniors every year. This is going to be a challenge that isn't going to go away. We've had some talks with our local ODD department on how we're going to move forward with this and how they're going to be involved. And throughout the rest of this year, we're going to be incorporating them more into our conversations about our acceptance for students of next year. And I hope, and I also want to piggyback off of Christy's comment, my bad. It is very important that the lab instructors get all the necessary details with these students. It is extremely important. I don't know that there's anybody else in education that understands the dangers or the expectations of our trades than we do. And we've been hired to be professionals in our field. We need to be a part of that conversation. And in order to best prepare, first of all, how do we keep our students safe? Secondly, how do we make them successful? And that's the biggest component, is that open communication, and that clear and open communication that sets all the standards for everything that we need to be focused on to accommodate for this changing to that point. But it's taken a while to get there. I'm glad we're there now. I look forward to working with our local ODD here in Clinton County, moving forward to help future students. But those are my stories in the comparison between what I consider to be a failure. The young man is working. He's graduated. He's doing well. He liked more blacksmithing than he did welding anyway. So it's not a lose situation. The young man did fine, and I still stay in contact with him. He was with another great instructor of ours at his home school, who happened to work for us, and was in a tech class, did really well in the tech class, loved it. It was a much safer environment for him. But that not knowing what I was getting into until it happened, and then by then it was too late. His confidence had already taken a toll. Fast forward to the second example. I knew everything going in. I was well versed on what I had to accommodate as we went forward and as we worked through things. But I had a real clear understanding of the parents' expectations, the students' expectations, the challenges that we were getting into, and what I needed to do to reach out to accommodate this kid. And I think that really is the difference between these two stories, is that clear communication from everybody involved on, the possible struggles or hurdles that we could encounter during their educational experience in our school.
Josh, I
And
think
that's
you
really
made a
all I
lot
have.
of fans today. You've made a lot of fans today. There's some questions in the chat, so let me grab them.
Sure.
Let's see. A question from Rochelle. You mentioned speaking with the second student's father early on in the process. Were you able to, she was curious if you were able to have contact with the first student's parents prior to him joining your program.
I did. And those parents were not forthcoming. I don't know if I didn't phrase everything correctly. We did bring up concerns. They were, I guess they were kind of shelved to, well, if they become a problem later. I did mention concerns with vision. I think we were in a situation, if I'm just going to speak plainly, we were in a position where mom and dad probably wanted this more than the student did. Yes, we had conversations. Their conversations were, nothing is going to keep him from being successful in your lab. None of his, challenges are going to keep him from being successful in your lab, which wasn't the case because they didn't know. They didn't have that knowledge. They didn't know whether or not he would be successful in my lab. They didn't know the challenges that he would be up against. I mean, depth perception is everything in what we do. Depth perception means keeping your fingers or losing them in a shear if you overextend them too far. So I think they were very aware of his challenges, but they really wanted him, I think, to fit into like what I would consider a normal school. At this point in his life, they wanted things to be as normal as possible for that child, and they were overlooking. And we make references, and I hate to say this, we make references all the time here about that scenario that I felt like myself and a few other people were the only ones truly concerned about this young man. Mom and dad didn't seem to want. They didn't seem to want what was best for him. They wanted what was best for them, I felt. And it was just, it was a very hard situation for me to be in. And I'm sorry if I didn't answer that accurately or correctly, or,
No.
it was a tough position for me to be in.
You're fine. And as we see with the expansion of CTE across the state, we are getting more students from these very specialized classrooms and programs. And sometimes the communication isn't there. I've heard stories of that too, about sometimes we don't even get an IEP until the student is well into the school year because it wasn't from a public school site or whatever the issue is. But that's just a reminder for us of how hard we need to work to get that information up front when a kid's enrolling, so we have time to help them really reach their goals and prepare. Jody, you
It's
have a
imperative.
question?
Yeah, Melissa, this question's for Josh. Josh, I wonder if, like, you're talking to the parents, did the parents really understand what was going on in your lab? Is this a situation that potentially making sure parents realize that the shear and the depth, I mean, did you think it was unrealistic expectations? Do you think it was the allure of great money for welders, or was it just rose-colored glasses?
I think there was a little bit of everything, Jody, if I'm going to be honest with you. So no, they were not unfamiliar. This young man had a forge set up in his garage. Loved anvils, would talk to me all day long about anvils, even though I don't know much about anvils, right? He knew everything. He knew when they were patented. I mean, this kid was big into anvils, wanted to forge all the time, even though we don't do any forging in our lab. Parents were very aware, and they're, a blue collar family anyway. Dad works construction, so he understands what's at stake. It was just more of an experience for them, and I think just wanting David, and this is a thing, and I sympathize with this, wanting him to feel like he's in a normal setting, you know. He was at that point in his life where he was looking at getting his license soon. He was becoming independent, and here we are still in a confined environment. And I think they wanted everything to be as normal for him into his transition from high school into real life, and wanting, I think, using that as an opportunity to kind of a barometer to see if he could, you know, if he was able to do that. Because I've never been in this position, but I would think from a parent standpoint, that's a tough thing to think about. Like, is my child going to be independent in 3 years? Are they going to be able to be self-sufficient? Those are big worries, and I sympathize with that. And I think that was probably a lot of what it was. And I don't think there was ever any real clear expectations from parent or student to be employed in it, which is fine. It's whatever. But I think it was more of a, let's try to get some normalcy. Let's try to uh, let's make that transition a little bit easier into the big world. And I think that's what that was.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Josh, there are a couple more questions in the chat. So
Please,
can
I got plenty
you share
of time.
the message you just gave about the importance of getting all the information in open communication formats?
Repeat that one more time. I'm sorry.
Can we share that message you just gave about the importance of getting all of the information in open communication formats? Lisa, you might expand.
I just want to make sure that you're okay, because you did a fantastic job of
Thank you so much.
basically just saying to administrators and partner school teachers and just the importance of, hey, we want to help these kids, but we
Yeah.
need to know ahead of time so that we can best prepare for them and help them be as successful as they can. You did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
I'm one of the consultants, and I run a coffee hour, and I do sessions sometimes for partner schools. Are you okay if I, take a clip
Please
of
do.
this
It's
recording?
imperative. It literally, that is, to me, the most important piece of the puzzle in order to make these experiences successful for our students. It's the most important piece. You have to lean on your instructors. Your instructors are going to be the first ones going, well, you didn't tell me this, this, and this, and this, and this, and I can't work with this student. I can't do this. I can't do that. They're going to be the first ones doing that. If you don't have open communication with them, then they have a leg to stand on. You didn't tell me about this. How am I responsible for this kid's safety in my lab? I wasn't aware of this. And all of a sudden you put this kid in my program, and now if he gets his finger cut, I'm responsible for it? No way. It really removes any, I guess, in my opinion too, there's a certain amount of trust there too. It's like, I've been doing this for 25 years. I'm liable in my lab for my students. I want to protect my students. Safety for my students is paramount. That's the number one priority for me in my lab. And in order for me to do that, I have to know what challenges I'm up against to best serve that student, to best serve the community. I have to know that. So lean on your instructors, make them overly aware of these issues, because then there's nothing to complain about at the end. You were given all this, you were given the opportunity to work with these teams, this, so on and so forth. And if that's the case, and we work through these scenarios and we find out that there's really, and there is times, guys, I'm just going to tell you, there are times where it's just not a good fit for safety and future. There are things that just don't work out. There's situations where students just shouldn't be in that particular lab for one reason or another, whatever that may be. But there are those situations. Not everybody is fittable into these programs. That's just not realistic. So there are times where that needs to be a deeper conversation, but it's extremely important to be as transparent as possible with these instructors so that they can best prepare their lab to be safe for that student and for that student to be successful in the future. Yeah, please share.
Mike wondered if that story's on social media, and I think that's how I originally came across it. So I'll see if I can find that.
It is. I'm going to tell you this. I do social media, and I'm not very good at organizing my stuff. I just put it out there and go.
Okay.
I go back to my farm at the end of the day, and I work in my shop the rest of the night, and I really don't even think about things. So it's in there, and yes, the story as it unfolds, you can see multiple on TikTok, especially. You can see multiple instances where I've reached out to the community on how do I solve this problem with this student. I mean, I had people in the community, they linked me to some extremely famous welders. This one gentleman was actually a very productive rig welder, owned his own rigging outfit and made hundreds of thousands of dollars and was in a car accident in a blink of an eye, was disabled. And he is still a social media personality that's able to weld from his wheelchair and travels around all over the place and gives demos to welding students, energizes those programs, gives hope to people with disabilities. I mean, Keplinger is an awesome, awesome person. He reached out to me, told me his story about overcoming these, these hurdles that he had. And this was something he didn't have his whole life to adjust to. He had to adjust to that in a blink of an eye. And just an incredible story. I've got goosebumps right now thinking about it. Phenomenal story from a phenomenal guy, but these resources were so valuable to me. And I don't know that I would have gotten them anywhere else other than the community of professionals that I reached out to. So I think, again, using the instructor in coordination with ODD, that's the ticket. That's the winning combination right there. Because through ODD and their solutions, their problem solvings and ways of dealing with these issues and industry combined, I don't see how you can't accommodate most every student.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Aaron asked, sometimes we think associate districts and parents are concerned to reach out prior to acceptance, thinking it might impact their acceptance. Do you have any advice or suggestions?
Yeah, I could totally see that. I could totally see that. And in my lab, again, we're only able to accept 25 students, and I'm getting 80, 90 applications a year. That's why we had to double our program. Up to that point, though, there was a lot of that. My goodness, on open houses, I would have parents coming up trying to, basically sell their kids. My kid's been doing this in the garage since they were 14, blah, 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 blah. Well, that's great. I'm not going to make the decision. I don't make that decision whether this kid's coming to my program in the first place, and I'm definitely not going to do that based off of whether or not this kid's been welding since he was 14. So I think, yeah, that's definitely a component that I feel is very strong. Somebody wanting their child to get in, and their kid wanting to get in to a program so badly that yeah, I've had kids tell me they missed 3 days the prior year, and it's really 30. I mean, they're willing to do whatever they can to get into a program that they think they're going to enjoy, and I think, yeah, there's a lot of that.
Katie asked if you have any supports in your lab from an intervention specialist, and do they help with any accommodations?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I have Jack Wessel, who is an awesome intervention specialist. He works closely with my students. As far as lab settings concerned, not so much. I handle everything in my lab, myself. Not that I don't need anybody for that role in my lab. He helps my students with their academics, making sure they stay on task, and honestly, giving them the feedback that they need, helping set them up to be successful young adults. And he does that in a very compassionate way because he does care about their future success. So his expectations are very much on par with mine, which are very high. And I make no difference between the students with disabilities in my program. I have the same expectations for them. Do I expect them to be better than everybody else? Absolutely. I expect them to try to be better than everybody else. Do I expect them to go out and be multimillionaires a year after they graduate? No, but I expect them to get out and try. Same thing with this young man. His dedication is unreal. Literally, this kid would be in the booth from the time I said, let's get to lab, to the time I said, clean up. He was the last one cleaning up every day. His dedication is what drove him to success, and that's what's going to keep him from, and it's going to drive him further into success as he moves out of his educational career into the big world. I mean, this kid's going to be he's equipped. That piece of equipment goes with him. That's his to keep. We've got more equipment that's going to be coming in. Another challenge he's going to be facing is TIG welding, which requires both hands at the same time. Working on a partnership right now with a company called Tip TIG, which is an automated wire feeding unit that you can attach to a TIG torch. That way he can get the experience of TIG welding, through, I guess, the technology that accommodates for that. And it's phenomenal. It's not only, it was designed to increase production rates and deposition rate in welding, but it's a very valuable tool for people that are in the same situation as my student. So we're looking forward to working through that partnership, and hopefully after the first of the year, My goal is to secure one of those units. It's fairly, um, I think it's going to end up being donated to our school, which is going to be a great thing. But it's going to help him experience something that he would have never been able. There would be no other solution on this planet. This company is the only solution that's offered right now. So I'm very thankful for the community. I met them actually at a national convention that Great Oaks was nice enough to send me to. They sent me to Chicago for 2 days for Fab Tech. And that was one of my missions, is finding things that can help my students better their experience in my lab. And this one, when I walk by this company, I'm like, that's the ticket for my young man that has limited use of his left hand. And this is the only way he's going to be able to experience the experience of TIG welding. And that might be something he gravitates towards. We'll never see until we try, but we'll never know until we try it. And hopefully after the first year, we'll have that secured and he'll be able to give it a shot.
Well, that's awesome. Josh, thank you so much for joining us today. We loved hearing your two stories and their message about how we need to do a better job of making sure we're ready for our students. And we also love the enthusiasm you bring. Clearly,
Oh,
your
thank you.
students are lucky to have you as their instructor. And I hope your positivity rubs off on other career tech instructors too, to see that we can do this mentality, that we can do
Yeah.
it. Like you said, very few can't be accommodated, but most people can. So
Absolutely. And that passion is that passion to me, in my opinion, is the largest accommodation you can have. I'm not here. I don't get paid to sell anything. I'm not here to sell welding, but I do get paid to bring passion for what I do. And I've been doing this for 25 years and I've loved every second of it. I've taught for 13 years. I've never worked a day in 13 years. This is my passion. I enjoy doing this. Passion's contagious. And those students, especially those students with disabilities, once they know that you believe in them and you've bought into them and they have the confidence that you're willing to go that extra mile for their success, they're going to work harder for you than any other student you have. I guarantee you that. I appreciate you all for having me. I'm sorry I'm not as refined as most people in education, but again, thank you so much for having me. And if there's anything I can do to help anybody, feel free to reach out. Melissa can share any of my information. My email address is wolfj@greatoaks.com. Any of my social media outlets you're more than welcome to join me there. Let me know what I can do to help. I don't know what I have to offer, but I can certainly hear you out and maybe offer some suggestions in the future.
okay, and later today I'll copy all the kudos you've got in the chat so you can have
Oh,
them.
thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thanks again,
Thank you all.
Josh.
Have a great day.
day.
Thank you.
Now that we've heard two amazing share outs, we would love to hear from those of you that are on the call with regards to what your process is for using community resources like Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities, the County Department of Developmental Disabilities to support students with disabilities in the lab setting. And also, how have you utilized community partners like OOD or DDS when a student transitions to a work-based learning site off campus? Don't all share out at once.
I can go. My name is Ruth Bundy. I'm fairly new as a special education supervisor. And first of all, I just want to thank both of our speakers today. You guys, I swear to God, you have like re-inspired me to want to do better. So thank you. My biggest takeaway so far is I really want to I work for several different dropout recovery schools in the state. And so I would really love to bring in some sort of community partner for each school from OOD. And so I'm kind of spinning in my head like ways to do that. So if anyone has any suggestions or anything, let me know. I know that we do refer our students, but to actually have a partnership with a specific counselor or something, I would love to have that at our schools.
Hello. My name is Kathy Kleiser. I'm with the Greene County Board of Developmental Disability Services. So I'm in I'm with state support. I'm not with state support team 10, but I'm in region 10. I think our county board has been fortunate enough to allow us to have this vision of allowing me as a transition coordinator after 34 years of teaching. I'm a transition coordinator with the county board, and I work with all the schools that allow me to come in, working with mostly the multiple disabilities. I struggle to get into some of those resource and inclusion classes. Mostly working with the students on what they want to do, getting invited to IEP meetings to see if they're eligible. I do a lot of the, we have a great relationship with OOD. So what I try to do is get the teachers to think about getting them involved in OOD. It's a way easier process than going through eligibility with us. But also the schools, we've done a great job of making sure testing is current. I do want to say it's very important, especially I see it in the Career Center. Our vision has changed, I think, with the schools and the psychologists. We're not just waiving testing because with the county board, it's very important that there is documentation of a developmental disability. And so making sure that IQ testing is current, but along with the IQ testing, that there is adaptive behavior, because where OOD is there temporarily and moving toward employment, we're there for life if we have students that are eligible. And developmental disabilities span a lot more than just, our kids with significant developmental disabilities. We serve a variety of individuals. So I think it's important that you find a contact person at your county board. We've worked very hard. I've been here 10 years. I know all of our special ed directors. We now kind of work with the Career Center. I'm working in the Career Center with the Career X program at the Greene County Career Center, which does a wonderful job of getting those students exploration and out and about. So I saw some questions of, are the county boards? Getting your county board involved is very important, mostly for eligibility, because we're there for support afterwards. We can help with the transportation, and once OOD closes their case, we are there with your employment navigators continuing to support individuals. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well. But I'm pretty proud of our participation and the county, the Greene County, the schools there, and the Greene County Career Center keeping us involved in the loop in IEP meetings and everything else.
Thanks, Kathy. Mike, I see you raised your hand.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I just want to point out is I'm up in Cuyahoga County. I'm lucky that I have the Employment Collaborative through our DD office, and also just trying to get kids out and get those connections made as soon as possible has been a huge help. They're nervous about interviewing, just getting out, going through the interview skills, going to meet people that are hiring students with disabilities. But I'm also going to flip that script a little bit and say, I think our partnerships with OOD have benefited them. We sometimes know the career field people really well. And when we find a career field person that is really open to working with people with disabilities of all levels, just trying to connect them with OOD. Sometimes we have the better connections with manufacturing, welding, those kind of people that aren't always as in connection with OOD. And building those relationships between all of us has been a huge benefit down the road for definitely for us in the Career Center, but I think it also helps out people that we don't know about that OOD and County Board can benefit from. So just working on that, not waiting till the end, getting started early on so that they know their contacts, the families know the contacts. All of that is huge help from our end, and I feel from their end as well.
Thank you, Mike. And I see we're lucky to have Taylor DiDonato on the call with her hand raised. And I'm hoping, Taylor, that you might be able to answer Ruth's question about the dropout prevention schools getting in connection with OOD.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. Aaron said, Taylor DiDonato, I'm with Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities. I am our Transition and Pre-ETS Program Administrator. And so I oversee all things transition related to OOD. So Ruth, in response to yours, please reach out to me so I can help connect you with the local office and hopefully work towards having counselors connected directly with your schools. That's one area that OOD, we want to try to build those relationships to help those students with disabilities have the same supports that their peers have. I just want to say, hearing the stories this morning from Chrissy and Josh, I feel everybody's reinvigorated, but it outlined the importance that here at OOD we also believe in and try to share and instill in our counselors is that communication and collaboration. My team, we are constantly talking about communication and collaboration. And our goal is ultimately that we're all leveraging, so OOD, DD, the schools, anyone else in our local areas, we're leveraging all that we can to support those students with disabilities. So I saw Kristen from Horizon. She talked about how can we best develop opportunities for students with disabilities and IEPs if we don't have existing opportunities in the trades or career fields for students with disabilities and they're maybe not interested. That is a great question. And we at OOD this past year, we see that as an area that needs work. Helping our students with disabilities explore the options that are available through our career tech education centers. So in collaboration with DEW and some local career tech centers, shout out to Lorraine and to Pickaway Ross. This past summer, we did a Career Tech X program that allowed some students with disabilities, I think we had 36 students total, get to explore some of the most in-demand jobs and career tech programs with hands-on experiences. And the goal of that pilot is to eventually, hopefully in the next couple years, be able to expand that so other career tech centers can utilize that program and that support from OOD to provide that to the students with disabilities. So I don't want to take up most of your time. You guys have had great conversation. I will drop some resources in the chat along with my contact information. So if you have any questions, maybe you're struggling with connections with OOD, you have questions about how OOD can support you in your school, please reach out to me. I am always happy to jump on a call or come meet you where you're at to explore how we can best support our students with disabilities.
Thank you, Taylor. And I see another hand raised for T. Miley.
Yes. Hi, my name is Taylor Miley. I work at Montgomery County Learning Center North. And I'm the career navigator here. And so besides doing things like in our school to build those skills, and referring students, obviously, we also have, during our parent teacher conference nights, we choose 2 of those throughout the year. And we actually invite all the outside agencies to that. That way we kind of get the parents also in collaboration with OOD, meeting them, because I don't know about anybody else, but a lot of the time our biggest barrier is just like getting those forms signed, which can be a huge, you know what I mean? The parents don't necessarily understand, or they're not as involved, or, whatever the case may be. So having face-to-face conversations with those parents who are coming in, having them meet our liaison or whoever it is at the time, and having them explain it in a little bit more depth and what it will do for those families, has helped a lot. We have our DDS person and we have OOD, and then we have a couple other, agencies that provide wraparound services for our kids too. But, yeah, and the parents really like that. We just set them up like in the hallway right as parents come in, and kind of talk to them at the beginning, and then if they fill it out at the time, then they fill it out at the time, but sometimes they take it home and give a little extra thought, but yeah, that's one thing that has helped us build collaboration with the families, since that seems to be sometimes our biggest barrier.
Thanks, Taylor. And I see Andy has his hand raised.
Hi, I'm Andy Slaughter. I'm from the Coshocton County Career Center. We have a great partnership with OOD. Rachel Geary is our local rep for that. She's in our building anywhere from 2 to 4 times a month. We take her and she goes into a few of our different labs and classrooms and kind of explains their process to all of our students. And then whenever they need to do an intake meeting or anything like that, we actually host all of those at our Career Center. Because it's kind of a safe common ground for the parents and the student as well. And then we even facilitate the ability for our students to go to some of their job site placements during our school day when they're in lab, so that they're able to get that time and get that ability to get out hands-on experience at the work site, which is good for them and good for us because it counts for some work-based learning hours for them as well. And then we also bring them in different evenings, our student orientation and those types of things. Rachel was here to be able to meet with parents and as well to, just introduce her and herself and what she all has to offer from OOD. Thank you.
Great. And I apologize for jumping in. I just want to make sure we leave time for our next speaker. Dr. Downing, she has planned a great presentation for us on literacy in CTE. So if you do have more questions, please drop them in the chat for us and we will get those answered. And if you want to share your thoughts, please do that as well. We do record the session, so all of this will be available and the chat pops up as well. All right. So without further ado, Dr. Downing, I hope you don't mind. I'm going to just introduce you and not go through your entire bio for sake of time, because I want you to be able to share all of the great information you have with us.
Absolutely.
So
thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Pam Downing from Southwestern Career Academy in the Southwestern City Schools District. And do you want to drive your own slideshow?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Oops, where's my? Pardon? Okay, are you seeing my screen?
Not yet.
Yes. Pardon?
Not yet.
Closes. Sure.
There you go. We see your browser and it has your Zoom window. There you go.
There we
Now
go. Okay, so first of all, thank you for having me today. And I am just bowled over by the first two presentations. There was a lot of great information as an administrator, a high school principal that I feel like I can take home, and I'm really finding it hard to follow both of those presenters. But I'm going to share with you some things that we've done in our building to try to improve student outcomes, specifically technical skill attainment. So I arrived at I came from Greene County Career Center actually to Southwestern Career Academy as principal in 2021. In my first year, I heard a lot of comments from teachers regarding a student lack of literacy skills, and we looked at data and saw the equity gaps for our EL and special education students. Following that, I was at a meeting and heard about the equity for each grant. So in my building leadership team and my department leads, we started brainstorming supports we would like to see in place for students to help build literacy skills. And I applied for the equity for each grant for the first time in 2023. So let me share, here's the data that we looked at. This data is what really started it all. Technical skill attainment for all students in that year was in the 22-23 school year. And it was 78.2% for all students. Our EL students had a 46.9% technical skill attainment, and special ed students were 57%. We had a 99.84% participation rate. So everybody was participating, but we had these gaps, and they really didn't surprise us. So we developed 4 overarching strategies as a team here to address these gaps. The first strategy was professional development. We decided we needed to begin with teachers and make sure they had the tools they needed to help students and to support them in a literacy journey. So we began with a whole building. I did some research and found Amy Benjamin, who wrote But I'm Not a Reading Teacher. And we provided the book for each member of our instructional staff. So she presented virtually on our opening day. The next, and I'll cover a little more of that in a moment, but then we also included sheltered instruction observation protocol training, or SIOP, and I purchased books through the grant for every staff member, and we had a stipend available for teachers to use their own time to do the training and become certified in the SIOP model. The next PD opportunity for staff was to take PD in multisensory reading training through Orton Gillingham, IMSI, and Wilson. And most of our intervention specialists took advantage of this, but we had some general ed and even a couple of career tech teachers who pursued that. We did follow up with Amy Benjamin regarding strategies from her book that were implemented at the Career Academy. And again, I'll get into that in just a moment. I did want to go back and say, in the SIOP model, we had more than half of our teachers participate in that and become certified. So that was something I thought was significant. So Amy Benjamin, But I'm Not a Reading Teacher. And I believe there are 2 Amy Benjamins or 2 But I'm Not a Reading Teacher books out there. So if you're looking for that, this is the cover. I wanted to make sure you saw that. The strategies that I had the staff, I told them just select 2 strategies that you think you can implement from the strategies listed in her book. And the different departments met, the TBTs met, and then they came back and they said, we think we can do the Latin roots with Spanish cognates relatively easily without stressing ourselves. We also think we can address professional vocabulary. So when we looked at the Latin roots with Spanish cognates, we decided we would have the district print department create posters. To do all of the roots, we had 4 posters per teacher. And then we also decided this was going to be a whole building effort. So we developed a department delivery schedule. And again, I kind of let this go, and the teachers drove this area. So the English teachers would do a deep dive into the Latin roots and Spanish cognates on Monday. And then Tuesday, our math department would give a little drop, like a bell work or an exit ticket or something, or they would add it into their lesson in some way, weave it in. And then, so Monday was math, Tuesday was science, Monday was English, Tuesday was math, Wednesday was science, Thursday was social studies, and Friday was career tech. And so that continued. The staff was pretty good about everybody implementing. We did have, as you know, a few teachers who pushed back and said, not my job. But by and large, most people bought in. And then the professional vocabulary was a less structured delivery method. We wound up creating flip books of the 100 most commonly used professional vocabulary words. And the teachers were asked to pick 2 a week and of their choosing, and weave it into their instructions, into their any direct instruction that they gave, just kind of getting the student used to hearing the word. And then they could also, do a little bonus point at the end of the chapter. You know, what do you think? How do you apply this word? So those were the two strategies we chose from Amy Benjamin. So each week, our English teachers would submit a page like this, and it went out to our staff in our news and notes each Friday for the following week with the Latin root. And then we had a sample lesson. This was a sample lesson that our English department wound up doing a presentation for the staff at a staff meeting, kind of to help give them ideas and let them know what they might be doing within the English classroom on Mondays. So we had this etymology worksheet here, and this graphic organizer. And then you can see they had a lesson that went with it, show what you know, building vocabulary with explanatory sentences so that they could use the words created as they studied the etymology. So here we have, I have a number of handouts here. I will show you those quickly due to time. So this was a bell ringer paper that was created so that, and teachers could use that as they wanted to. So
Hey,
that
Pam,
was
sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. It's Melissa. Don't worry about time. You've got 20-25 minutes. You're fine.
Oh, okay. Okay. So thank you. So this was one idea the English teachers gave to the rest of the instructional staff to use for the Latin roots. And let's see, here's another one. No, oh, nope, that's the same one. Sorry. We have a word spider handout. Let's see. This was another idea. So how many unique words can you think of with the Latin root gress? And so then you draw your spider below. Remember, the root is the body and the prefixes and suffixes are the legs on the left and right hand. So they were required to give 8 legs minimum. So again, this was an activity that the English teachers could either use or they shared it with the rest of the instructional staff on ways to talk about the Latin roots in class. Whoops. Let's see. There's one more I wanted to go to. Okay, so here was the word spider strategy, vocabulary, analysis. And this was a presentation that the English department gave to the rest of the staff so that it could be used in class or to support the other instructional staff members. So again, the root word and the prefixes and suffixes. Let's see, and then there was a lesson order that they shared. And then priming students for success. So they said if you're building a habit of translating the literal meaning of the word into meaningful stories and explanations for your students. So this lesson will talk about students through an algorithm building this kind of meaning on their own. So that, you know, just encouraging the teachers to understand that this is an important practice. And there are simple things to do to help embed literacy into every content area. And we knew this had to be a building-wide effort in order for it to have true impact on our students. And then we go on to a sample lesson with the word spider, and the Latin root was spire, to breathe. So again, a deeper dive. But can the rest of the instructional staff take parts of this and build on it for future Latin roots? Okay. So our lab teachers, you know, the career tech teachers were the teachers we worried the most about feeling comfortable and confident in delivering the roots. We have some who do it eloquently and others who still and in 3 years explain that they're a little uncomfortable with it, but we just get support for them. Someone from the language arts intervention department go down and work with them and give them some more ideas. But one teacher said, I used the Latin roots posters and what I was already teaching with medical terminology. So obviously some programs, the vocabulary, the extensive vocabulary taught in Career Tech, as you all know, a lot of it, has Latin roots. Another one said, I also added Latin root questions to my weekly quizzes, and the students knew this was a weekly expectation. And finally, another said, in addition, I added the Latin roots to my daily board reviews that each student must participate in as part of lab points. So this was fairly early on. Teachers stood up and shared these points at another staff meeting. So every staff meeting we were visiting this topic and asking for input and how it was going. We spent maybe 5 or 10 minutes at each staff meeting talking about this. So this was the first time I started to see teachers get their feet firmly planted, especially the Career Tech teachers, around delivering Latin roots. So now I'm going to move on to strategy number 2. We decided to hold a summer success camp. And this was written into the grant. And this was to be done about a week before the school year started. One of the number one issues we had was getting needed forms in from our EL parents. So we have a large contingency of Spanish-speaking students and homes, Somali, Ukrainian, Russian, and families that speak Hakka. So we have to put everything out in those languages. Now, we do have interpreters, and I have a Spanish bilingual assistant on my staff in my building all of the time, and then I also have a shared Somali bilingual assistant. Everything else we have to use a platform, electronic platform, to communicate. So, but we tried to get interpreters for each language, each of our main languages, to come in at the first day of Success Camp. We provided coffee and donuts for the parents and had them sit down. And also, not just our EL parents were invited, but all special ed parents were invited to come in and get their forms done with support. So that was important, because here with dangerous tools, flames, sharp things, automated machinery, we know that students can get hurt, and I want 100% return on my emergency medical forms. So we did that, and we had great success with that. We would meet as a large group, all of the students who RSVP'd that they were coming, and then some surprises. Often students would come that didn't RSVP, and that was great. We wanted everybody we could get. But they had sessions on vocabulary acquisition strategies, study skills, executive functioning skills, Google tools for organization. We included SEL, which was a drum line, and that was very popular with students. We had team building activities, and this year it was an escape room. An outside entity provided lunch for our students and staff each day, and then we had a scavenger hunt so that the students could become more comfortable with the building. So being comfortable as they came in on day 1 of school wasn't going to be a problem, in addition to whatever other challenges they faced. We also provided transportation from the home schools. We have 4 home schools in our district that feed into the Career Academy. And so the students had to find a way to get to their home school, but then we could give them a ride to and from the Career Academy at the start and end of the day. Okay, so we have strategy number 3, and that was student support. And we lumped a number of things here. And one was we had after school tutoring every Tuesday and Thursday from 3:15 to 4:15. So we offered, we had an intervention specialist, an EL specialist, a math teacher, and an English art teacher that were given stipends for covering this. And then we wound up also giving one an extra stipend for making sure that the snacks were set up for the students after school, that the workspace was ready to go. We had the meeting in our library or media center, and they also would stay until all students were picked up or got on a bus to go home. So we did provide busing for this too. Busing was a critical part of the success of all of our programs. So we were glad that we had that written into the grant. And I had to provide the snacks out of the principal's fund, which was fine, but the students were hungry at the end of the day, and for them to really learn, they needed something to munch on. In this first year, the after-school tutoring, typically our attendance was mediocre. Sometimes it was very full, and other times there were only a few students, but we had a handful, maybe 5 students who were there almost every single session. The other student support we offered was lunch and learn on Wednesdays and Fridays. And we set out 2 large round tables in our foyer, our entrance foyer, and I had 2 teachers per lunch period sign up for each of our 4 lunches. And then the study tables, the students would go get their lunches and staff would bring their lunches, and they would sit at the tables and they would work through problems. If students were working through some homework and needed support, the teacher was there to give it to them. It might just be getting organized, making a list of priorities of assignments, some of those executive functioning tools that students need to be successful. Teachers on the staff could assign students to lunch and learn, and the teachers that were manning the tables for that lunch period would look for them in the cafeteria. And this was a very popular program. The tables were always full. And one of the wonderful things that I saw, these teachers that did this did get a stipend for doing this, but this was Wednesdays and Fridays, but Monday and Tuesday and Thursday, I often saw those teachers go down and sit at the tables, or other teachers just sit down at the tables with their lunch, and students would come out and ask to join them. And they would build relationships and they would work through struggles in their homework or what have you. But so we saw a lot of teachers just step in and do it because they thought it was a really cool activity and really beneficial for students. Our teachers here in this building get a full hour for lunch, and they don't have any lunchtime duties, which is unusual. And so it really pleased me to see them putting students first in that extra half hour of time. Strategy 4 were student resources, which is different than the student supports. So all of these resources that I'm going to talk about were requested by the teachers. Specifically, the English Language Arts Department requested these. So, and I'll talk a little bit about the benefits of them and why we selected them for literacy strategies. The first was Alexia EL. That was managed by our English language specialist and our English learner specialist and intervention specialist by caseload. We provided training for all of our intervention specialists and our EL specialist. The next was Upfront Magazine with leveled versions and text-to-speech available. And the justification for requesting classroom sets for each of these for the English classrooms were they're relevant to many different points of view that students can connect with, and it showcases differing opinions about topics of concern. The articles are short and graphic heavy, making the text feel inviting and faster paced to reluctant students. It comes with useful supplemental materials and activities that target our ELA standards and offer support for struggling readers. Upfront Magazine is extremely beneficial for intervention specialists as they collect data on students' progress on reading and writing. And the magazine is written at a 9th grade level, but each article is available at lower reading levels with simplified sentence structures and vocabulary. Teachers can print out identical looking leveled versions of the article and distribute them to focus students while reducing stigma. It also offers text-to-speech reading for each article. And for EL students, the leveled versions of each article provide simple sentence structure and vocabulary. There's a lot of photography that supports the meaning of the text. There's text to speech, and the digital version also includes definitions for critical vocabulary. So that was something that they made a good argument for, and we used grant funds to provide that for each English teacher. And then oftentimes I would see them, when the English teachers were done with them, they would wind up in the social studies department for further use. So they were recycled and used to a great extent. The next item that the English teachers wanted were small journals for bullet journaling, and that was based on Kelly Gallagher's 180 days. So we were able to purchase a lot of journals, small paper journals, and lots of stickers and markers and colored pencils and things for the students to decorate their journals. So these notebooks are also known as bujos, and the students, they were received by students as a resource that they can turn to as they practice strategies for making meaning from challenging texts. They're used to model reflective writing, asking questions while reading, and revision strategies for using a document camera. Literacy benefits of bujos, which are compact and have a clear format for students with disabilities, include the assurance that all students have access to notes in the same easy-to-find places as their peers. Furthermore, the use of bullet-style journal has been recommended as a strategy for students with executive functioning challenges, such as those commonly seen with ADHD and autism spectrum disorder. EL students benefit from bujos as journaling can provide a low-stakes way to practice writing in English, and can also provide dedicated spaces for vocabulary and grammar instruction that students can return to when they need reference. So that was another request, which was fulfilled. We ordered plenty of supplies for the staff, for the English department to use with students. And when I'm in the classrooms, I see the students using these bullet journals. They take great pride in them, and they like sharing them, which is even better. So I'd like to talk about results from our first year of efforts in improving student literacy. So here we go. The initial data was based on CTPD data, which I showed you at the beginning. However, as a building, we also wanted to know, so in this district, we are the majority of the CTPD work. Most of the career tech in the district is currently housed in this building. There are a few programs at the home schools, and that is going to be increasing as we move forward, but because we're out of space here. But I wanted to make sure you understood there were two sources of data here. Let's see. We wound up having to hand tabulate. We pulled a record of all of our EL students, all of our special ed students, and then added them to each program. We went through each program and decided, what was our percentage. So I wanted to say, I'm going to repeat, overall in 2022-23, our overall technical skill attainment was 84.5%. In 23-24, at the end of that first year, we were up to 94.65 technical skill attainment. Our special ed students in 22-23 were 57%, and they went up to 89% at the end of the year. Our English language learners were at 46.9% in 22-23, and in 23-24 they went up to 81%. We were celebrating at the end of the year when we learned all of this. So we were very, very pleased. And this was definitely great data to take back to the rest of the instructional staff at the start of the new year, letting them know that the things that we put in place, and we all believe that the work with our Latin roots was probably the #1 impactful strategy that we had. All of the others were supports and helpful, but that was probably the #1 strategy. So then we go on to year 2 of our strategy. And so we wound up looking at universal design for learning to support our literacy initiatives. We had all of the other initiatives were the same. The difference this year was that we started looking at universal design for learning while implementing our Latin roots. We also added Greek roots in year 2. So we now had, the first year, all juniors and seniors received Latin root instruction. So we had our juniors that became seniors who are now going to be introduced to Greek roots. And it was going to follow the same format with English teachers on Monday and math teachers Tuesday, science teachers Wednesday, so on and so forth. So we wound up having Jennifer Pusateri, who wrote Transform Your Teaching with Universal Design for Learning. She came to our October PD day of the 24-25 school year. She did a great job presenting Universal Design for Learning and supporting our literacy, using that to support our literacy initiatives. So each teacher received a copy of her book, and they were to look through that, hopefully read the chapters in their TBT meetings. Jennifer Pusateri also conducted a follow-up at a March staff meeting to check on progress and answer any lingering questions. So our format has been at the beginning of the year to have the presentation and lay out the work and what it looks like, and then later in the spring come back and help solve any frustrations the teachers were having. So again, all other initiatives remained in year 2. And so here are our outcomes for year 2. All students, this was the CTPD. All students had a passage rate of 87.9%, with English learners at 71.43%, and students with disabilities at 74.22%. So even looking at the CTP data, we were up, not just looking at the students within our building, but next I'm going to talk about building outcomes. So I have a chart here showing all students. In 22-23, we had the 3.84% overall, 23-24, a 5.54% increase, and 24-25, we had a 5.41% increase. Now, this was for all students, not looking at our special needs students or our EL students. So here's a chart showing for subgroup. In 22-23, our special students with special needs were 57%. They went up to 89%. And then in year 3, they went up to 91.3% for the 24-25 school year. EL students went from 47% to 81% to 71.43% for technical skill attainment. So we were really, really proud of all of this work. Let me talk to you now about what we're doing this year as we follow on. I am definitely, as an administrator, do not like to do a one and done on an initiative. When we begin something, I feel that if it's working and it's important enough to do in year 1, we need to continue to weave it through what we're doing each year following. So, unfortunately, in year 3, we did not receive the Equity for Each grant. The focus of the grant changed, and I still wanted to work on this initiative, so I knew that there was a good possibility I wouldn't get the grant to use for these initiatives, and I was trying to come up with ways to support everything. I was not quite able to cover everything. So in year 3, we wound up looking at this outside of literacy. The next thing I was hearing from staff was that students had no executive functioning skills, they didn't emotionally regulate. And so we're like, okay, so if this is the next largest item preventing students from being successful, let's take a look at that and see what we can do to support them with those skills. So Alexis Reed from CAST presented in person on our opening day this year, and she wrote the book. Let me grab the book. It is Supporting Executive Functions, Insights, and Strategies for Educators. She and Lisa Carey wrote the book. And she did an amazing job presenting to our staff on opening day. She also created an interactive note-taking document so she and the teachers could communicate regarding challenges and findings and thoughts about the reading and their work throughout the year. She regularly communicates with several of my teachers who have really dug into the work. I'm unable to share the interactive note-taking document because it's proprietary, but I've been really impressed with the level of engagement she has had with our staff, and that she is providing support to the staff year long. And again, she'll come back in the spring at a staff meeting. Our staff is assigned one chapter to do the reading. What I learned in the other years was they weren't always reading. They may have skimmed the books. So this time I assigned one chapter per month, and they're given 30 minutes at the start of their TBT meeting to read and discuss the chapter. And some people thought maybe that wasn't a great use of time, but as I told them, I said, if you want to have solutions to what you're complaining about, here we go. So let's make it a priority. So each department is responsible for presenting key concepts at each month at the staff meeting. And the presentation is to take no more than 10 minutes. And I'm going to show you our first staff meeting was run by the social studies department, and they created a handout for the staff, really summarizing chapter 1 and what they can do, and they talked through some ideas with the staff. And I really appreciated that they did such a great job in the first staff meeting, because that has set the standard for the other departments. We just had this week we just had actually Monday, our second staff meeting where the teachers were presenting, and our English department did it, and they also did a wonderful job. So I've been pleased with the level of fidelity they have implemented these strategies. So it's been another busy year, but without the other student supports and resources, we are really working hard to maintain the things that we've implemented, and looking forward to where we're going to go from here to make sure we continue to embed our practices with both the literacy and executive functioning skill building that we have begun three years ago to implement in our classrooms. Are there any questions?
All I can say is, wow. The data is the proof of the hard efforts. I'm amazed.
We were so excited to find out, sometimes you wonder, we believed that the strategies were good and solid, but sometimes you feel like you're throwing a wet spaghetti noodle at a target and hoping it sticks, because you never know what students are really absorbing. And so at the end, we realized, limp spaghetti noodle or not, we hit the target. And so it was very rewarding for the staff. And I have an extremely hardworking staff here. My teachers are just amazing. They work very, very hard to get students to where they need to be. They are a staff that believes in meeting students where they are and taking them as far as they can go and are willing to work to go. So I couldn't be prouder of the staff here. And none of this is possible without them, without their engagement, without them trusting me. That's been huge too. So it's been like the pinnacle of my career, and I am so proud of this building.
Well, you have every reason to be. And your students, wow, what great improvement they showed from year to year. That's amazing. Sorry, my light got me there.
Yeah. I heard one student say the other day, the teachers teach here differently than they do at my home school. And that made me very proud that, yes, the teachers are taking to heart what we're doing. Again, you always have a couple who, I don't need to do that. But when everybody else is doing it and talking about it and serious about it, I think it rubs off on them. So that's great. And the culture and climate here is wonderful. So they are very much encouraged by their peers to participate.
Great. Great. Does anybody have any questions for Pam? Okay. Well, we are going to skip our reflection for that one since we're a few minutes over. And
sorry.
No. It's all of our conversations were so awesome today that it just went over a little bit. And that's fine. We'd rather give you such great information that it goes over than people don't want to stay. So we're excited. Today's been an awesome day. Just to give you a couple things before we go into our breakouts, we did link the new Read Ohio tips from the department. It's also in our Padlet. And let me just real quick show you what the Padlet looks like. So when you get there, you can see. So everything from our previous meetings are on the right side. And then today it's the first column you'll see. And so the presentations are loaded. This slide deck will go up after the meeting, and then the video after it's all rendered will get linked here too. So we'll pin it to the top so you can see the recording like in other times. And then the resources are right below. So if you have any questions, just reach out and we'll direct you. We'll get you some more help accessing things. So Jody, do you want to quick go over this one?
Yeah, I sure will. I think that, here's, the career tech consultants, these are some of the things that we can do. We can help you facilitate us. How are we serving students with disabilities in a career tech setting? We can just help you evaluate what you're doing and potentially how to make them more robust. This also ties into the CLNA, which eventually ties into the Perkins. We just wanted to make sure that, we're here to support you with, your most vulnerable populations, specifically students with disabilities. But you can see how it takes more than one person to make this work. So we're here to support you in helping you leverage those supports that are out there. So please don't be strangers.
And if anything today sparked an idea for you, we're happy to help you move that idea forward into something you can implement. So I wanted to real quick also show you this new site from Ohio ACT. It is fabulous. It's called CTE 101. And right now they have the counselor section ready, but you'll see they'll have things for administrators and industry partners too. But I think anybody can benefit from the counselor section. So when you click on the toolkit, all of these items are hyperlinked. And they show different ways to do some career exploration and planning. They have reflection questions for you to use. And then this was incredible, state by state resources. So as you go through each state, if you know of a friend that's in Michigan and they're using something that you want, chances are it's going to be linked in here for you. So it might take a little while to go through what's there, but it's an enormous resource for you. And they've done a great job getting it together. So, and then these are some of the meetups that Ohio ACT has, supporting CTE administrators here at 11:30, then today, and then tomorrow, a work-based learning division meeting, and then next week, the special education division meeting. So if that's something you're interested in, all these links are accessible even in the PDF. And then we usually give time to our tech prep friends to say some things at our meeting or tell you what's happening. But as you all know, those have transitioned to career pathway support networks. And so you probably saw the messaging come out from the Department of Education and Workforce earlier or later in October. And so these are the regions now that are housing those career pathway support networks. And they're just in the infancy stages of getting up and running. So we're hopeful that by our February meeting, we'll have a little bit more information to share with you about how those are going to function and how we can help support our students using those career pathway support networks along with the resources that we can provide.
Melissa, before you move forward, there was someone who had raised their hand.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
Hi, Melissa. It was me, but I put it down because I found the link for the CTE 101. Thank you, though.
Okay. Okay, so I know they've been putting, my colleagues have been putting the chat into, or the link to the feedback form into the chat. So if you can't make it to the regional breakout, that's fine. We totally understand. But please do share your feedback with us. It helps us plan our next sessions and makes these meetings more valuable for you. And so we're going to go into regional breakouts. We have combined some regions today because we have some new SST CTPD consultants, and we didn't want to throw them to the wolves today. So you'll see the breakout room listed, and then Jody put those in there for you. So you can go in and you can pick your group. If you can see this, when you click on the breakout rooms, all the people are in there, and then you can join what region you're in. So we'll go ahead and do that. And we won't be coming back to the large group after that. So thank you so much for joining us today. And we hope you got some great information out of this session. And feel free to share things in your breakout room and ask more questions in there. And we'll see you the next time in February.